Hey, first grade students, welcome back for a little bit more reading with our friends Frog and Toad. Remember, we had started reading a book in this series called Days with Frog and Toad. And the last time we read yesterday, we talked about the solution to the problems in the story. And remember, Toad was thinking about all the things he wanted to do today, so he would wait to clean tomorrow. And in the end, his solution to that problem was do the work today so that tomorrow he could just relax and decide to do nothing. And then in the next story called The Kite, Toad was having a little trouble getting his kite to fly, and Frog was encouraging him, and in the end they came up with a plan that worked just right, and the kite flew really high, even higher than those pesky birds could fly. We're going to read 3 more stories today, and I want you to help me out in thinking about what the solution to the problem is in the story. The first story that we're going to read is called Shivers. Now, just like Mrs. Gabowski reminded us last week, we should really use the picture clues to think about the setting of the story. The setting can give us a lot of information about what might happen during the story. Now, with a title like Shivers and this kind of dark, quiet-looking picture and setting, I can see Toad and Frog. They have a drink in their hand. Maybe it's something warm like hot cocoa or some coffee. And then here, this must be a fireplace lit because look at how their chairs are lit up on this side. That seems like a cozy little spot there when, oh, look out the window. It looks kind of dark and windy, a little bit spooky. The first sentence says, the night was cold and dark. Listen to the wind howling in the trees, said Frog. What a fine time for a ghost story. Are ghosts real? No, they're not. Are ghost stories fun to tell? Yeah, they are. What a fine time for a ghost story. Toad moved deeper into his chair. Toad, asked Frog, don't you like to be scared? Don't you like to feel the shivers? I am not too sure, said Toad. Frog made a fresh pot of tea. Oh, that's what's in their mug, tea. He sat down and began a story. When I was small, said Frog, my mother and father and I went out for a picnic. On the way home, we lost our way. My mother was worried. We must get home, she said. We do not want to meet the old dark frog. Who is that? I asked. A terrible ghost, said my father. He comes out at night and eats little frog children for supper. This is giving me the shivers. Toad sipped his tea. Frog, he asked, are you making this up? Maybe yes, and maybe no, said Frog. My mother and father went to search for a path, said Frog. They told me to wait until they came back. I sat under a tree and waited. The woods became dark. I was afraid. Then I saw 2 huge eyes. It was the old dark frog. He was standing near me. Frog, asked Toad, did this really happen? Maybe it did, and maybe it didn't, said Frog. Look at the shadows behind them. That's just making me feel a little bit extra spooked. Frog went on with the story. The dark frog pulled a jump rope out of his pocket. I am not hungry now, said the dark frog. I have eaten too many tiny frog children. But after I jump rope 100 times, I will be hungry again. Then I will eat you. I look really closely. This is kind of interesting to me. Here's little frog. Yeah, looks like a big frog with a ghost-looking sheet on his head. I don't know, it's just what I'm thinking about right now. The dark frog tied one end of the rope to a tree. Turn for me, he shouted. I turned the rope for the dark frog. He jumped 20 times. I am beginning to get hungry, said the dark frog. He jumped 50 times. I am getting hungrier, said the dark frog. He jumped 90 times. I am very hungry now, said the dark frog. What happened then? Said Toad. I had to save my life, said Frog. I ran around and around the tree with the rope. I tied up the old dark frog. He roared and screamed. I ran away fast. I found my mother and father, said Frog. We came safely home. Frog, asked Toad, was that a true story? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, said Frog. Frog and Toad sat close by the fire. They were scared. Their teacups shook in their hands. They were having the shivers. It was a good, warm feeling. Now, isn't that an interesting sentence? If I look closer at the picture, I notice the fire is roaring. They seem happy to be with each other, and they have mugs of hot tea in their hand. I wonder if even telling a scary story can make two friends have fun together and give them that nice warm feeling. That's the solution to their story. Now this next one is one of my favorite Frog and Toad stories ever, and I'll tell you why. Toad never actually knows the true solution to his problem because Frog just wants to do something kind. You'll find out more. A hat. On Toad's birthday, Frog gave him a hat. Can you notice what the problem is with the hat already? Frog's wondering, how do we fix this problem? It's way too big. Toad was delighted. Happy birthday, said Frog. Toad put on the hat. It fell down over his eyes. I am sorry, said Frog. That hat is much too big for you. I will give you something else. No, said Toad. This hat is your present to me. I like it. I will wear it the way it is. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad tripped over a rock. He bumped into a tree. He fell in a hole. Frog, said Toad, I can't see anything. I will not be able to wear your beautiful present. This is a sad birthday for me. Frog and Toad were sad for a little while. Then Frog said, Toad, here's what you must do. Tonight when you go to bed, you must think some very big thoughts. Those big thoughts will make your head grow larger. In the morning, your new hat may fit. What a good idea, said Toad. That night, when Toad went to bed, he thought the biggest thoughts he could think. Toad thought about giant sunflowers. He thought about tall oak trees. He thought about high mountains covered with snow. I see Frog, perhaps getting ready to do something that a good friend might do for their good friend. Then Toad fell asleep. Frog came into Toad's house. He came in quietly. Frog found the hat and took it back to his house. Frog poured some water on the hat. He put the hat in a warm place to dry, and it began to shrink. Smaller. The hat grew smaller and smaller. Frog went back to Toad's house. Toad was still fast asleep. Frog put the hat back on the hook where he found it. When Toad woke up in the morning, he put the hat on his head. Look at his face. It was just the right size. Toad ran to Frog's house. Frog, Frog, he cried. All those big thoughts have made my head much larger. Now I can wear your present. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad did not trip over a rock. He did not bump into a tree. He did not fall in a hole. It turned out to be a very pleasant day after Toad's birthday. That's a sweet solution. Does Toad really know what happened to his hat? Not really. He was thinking those big thoughts, but his buddy Frog wanted to kind of fix that problem from him and make his hat fit much better. This last story is called Alone. Perhaps if you're like me, sometimes you need to just be alone, to think your own thoughts and get into the green zone, have a calm body, and to spend some time thinking about your friends and the other things that are really nice about your life. Now, Frog and Toad, we know, like to spend their days together because they're friends. But sometimes even the best of friends want to have a little alone time too. That's going to happen for one of our characters, and it's going to make the other friend a little bit sad. But you'll find out more in our story. Toad went to Frog's house. He found a note on the door. The note said, Dear Toad, I'm not at home. I went out. I want to be alone. Alone, said Toad. Frog has me for a friend. Why does he want to be alone? Toad looked through the windows. He looked in the garden. He did not see Frog. Toad went into the woods. Frog was not there. He went to the meadow. Frog was not there. Toad went down to the river. There was Frog. He was sitting on an island all by himself. Now, Toad's going to want to fix this for Frog. He doesn't want him to feel lonely. Poor Frog, said Toad. He must be very sad. I will cheer him up, and ran home. He made sandwiches. He made a pitcher of iced tea. He put everything in a basket. That sounds so nice, doesn't it? Toad hurried back to the river. Frog, he shouted, it's me. It's your best friend, Toad. Frog was too far away to hear. Toad took off his jacket and waved it like a flag. Frog was too far away to see. Toad shouted and waved, but it was no use. Frog sat on the island. He did not see or hear Toad. A turtle swam by. Toad climbed on the turtle's back. Turtle, said Toad, carry me to the island. Frog is there. He wants to be alone. Frog wants to be alone, said the turtle. So why don't you leave him alone? Maybe you're right, said Toad. Maybe Frog does not want to see me. Maybe he does not want me to be his friend anymore. Yes, maybe, said the turtle, and he swam to the island. Frog, cried Toad, I am sorry for all the dumb things I do. I'm sorry for all the silly things I say. Please be my friend again. Toad slipped off the turtle. With a splash, he fell in the river. Are you wondering what I'm wondering right now? Frog and Toad are friends. I just can't imagine that Frog would really not want to be Toad's friend. Frog pulled Toad up onto the island. Toad looked in the basket. The sandwiches were wet. The pitcher of iced tea was empty. Our lunch is spoiled, said Toad. I made it for you, Frog, so that you would be happy. But Toad, said Frog, I am happy. I am very happy. This morning when I woke up, I felt good because the sun was shining. I felt good because I was a frog. And I felt good because I have you for a friend. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to think about how fine everything is. Oh, said Toad. I guess that is a very good reason for wanting to be alone. No, said Frog, I will be glad not to be alone. Let's eat lunch. Frog and Toad stayed on the island all afternoon. They ate wet sandwiches without iced tea. They were two close friends, sitting alone together. I think that Toad realizes by the end of the story, it's okay to be alone, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're lonely. And sometimes that alone time can remind you how glad you are to have such good friends. Thanks for listening along. Have a great day.